Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, students. So today we are going to study about the network and file sharing protocols. But with a review of the previous lectures, in our previous weeks we studied about the TCP/IP protocol suite, which I told you is the backbone of all the networking, which included a lot of other protocols in it as well. I told you a protocol is something like a set of rules which is agreed upon between two nodes of communication in order to make the communication possible. So TCP/IP was the main protocol which was making the communication possible between the local area networks and then all the interconnected networks that we know as internet. So today we are going to talk about some other protocols that are working alongside TCP/IP to make the communication possible. First and foremost of which is Ethernet. Whenever you are accessing a local area network, whenever you are accessing a network within your home, maybe there is a router there and you have 5, 6 mobile devices, 1, 2 computers connected to that modem, that router, and all of them are accessing internet. What you don't realize is that you are actually making a small network of computers and mobile devices as well. And that small network is based on the Ethernet protocol. The Ethernet protocol actually makes the local area networking possible. As you can see in the diagrams, it can include more than one computer, the clouds, the wireless devices, and the cable-based networking as well. Usually in our modern Ethernet, there is always a central device, which is connecting or making the connection possible with all the other computers. In this case, there is this router, which is making the connection possible with other computers. In a bigger scenario, there can be a mainframe, a central device, a cloud service based on internet located somewhere else, and all the other computers using the internet can access that mainframe or that central computer to gain access to the network. In that case, it would be a wide area network. So as I told you that we're talking about Ethernet, so let's explore in a bit detail what Ethernet really is. The Institute of Electrical Electronics Engineers, IEEE, actually commissioned a committee, which the number of that committee is 802. All the networking protocols, whether they're based on cable or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or WiMAX, they are all actually described and regulated by this committee 802. First, it was established in 1970s. Then it was regulated by IEEE and it was standardized as IEEE 802.3 as a standard for all the wired networks. Wired network means the networks that are using the cable networking. You might have seen on your Wi-Fi modem, it is always written 802.11 A or C or E, whatever version of the network protocol you are using. In that case as well, the 802 is referring to the IEEE's committee, and point 11 is the protocol number of the Wi-Fi. We would discuss that in a little bit later as well. The data link layer of TCP/IP model, actually the Ethernet protocol exists in the data link layer of the TCP/IP model. Ethernet itself had its generation, like you have your generation of your cell phone technologies. Currently, we are in transition. Most areas are now accessing the 4G networks. 5G also being implemented in some parts of the world. But Ethernet has its own generations, own levels. As you can see from the table, in 1978, the maximum speed that could be achieved was 2.5 megabits per second. And carrying on since 2010 to 2015 and even up till now, local area network speed have increased to 40 to 100 gigabits per second. But mostly the devices that available to us in the market actually gives us the Ethernet data transfer rate somewhere from 1,000 megabits to 10 gigabits per second. Excuse me. Now, let's now consider how Ethernet transmits data. Remember in the TCP/IP lecture, I told you that the data in the data link layer is broken down into frames. First, it was made into the data packets, the datagrams, and now we are trying to make it into frames. The frame is a physical unit of data transmission that is going to happen over the network in form of electrical signals, of course. How this process is done, that the data is transmitted in frames, and in each frame, the source and destination MAC address is included. And in the later slide, I'm going to show you the format of each frame as well. The address is usually hexadecimal notation, and I'm sure that you remember and recognize this address from your previous lectures. You have been studying this since your O level as MAC address. So this is the physical identification of your device, your network interface card, which actually lets us recognize the physical device on the network. So when the data is made into frames, each frame has the MAC address of the sender, the source, and the MAC address of the destination address. The Ethernet frame is actually divided into some portions. The first portion is called preamble. Preamble consists of 56 bits. Now things are going to get a bit typical, so I would want you to pay very close attention to it. First of all, the frame is going to start with the preamble, the 56 bits of alternating zeros and one. It does not contain any data, but it is just alerting the receiving system that the data transmission is going to be starting soon. So it should actually get ready to receive data and synchronize its input and get ready to receive the frame. Then we have the start frame delimiter, SFD, which is of actually 1 byte. This tells that now the signal, that now the frame is actually starting. SFD is the last chance for the destination computer to get ready to receive data. Then starts the destination address. This is the 6 bytes MAC address that contains the physical address of the destination, and this address is actually used to identify the sender. Remember, I told you that the data bounces across different nodes on the network. So they have access to this part of the frame. They see if their MAC address is matching so they can receive data, and if not, so they just route the data to the next part. Then we have the source address, the computer that is sending. The frame would contain its MAC address also in 6 bytes. So the excuse me. So source address actually tells you where the data is actually coming from. Now, then you have the length or type. This field actually is telling us the type or the length field of the data, the original Ethernet, this field as the type field to define the upper layer protocol using the MAC frame. Then starts your data, which contains the actual data which we are trying to send. This field can be from 46 to 1500 bytes depending on the size of the data we are trying to transmit. And then we have the last part, which is used to detect any error in the data transmission. If there are any errors, you have studied the different methods like ARQ in your previous classes. If there has been some error and the data transmission is disrupted, this is where that error is going to be identified and proper action would be taken. So to sum all that up, this is how your frame is going to look like. Now your total frame length actually is based on, as you can see that all this is fixed, and the maximum frame length can be 512 bits of 64 bytes. Sorry, that would be minimum. And the maximum can be of 1518 bytes. The variation, as I told you in the previous slide, the variation is due to the data and padding part, which can be from 56 to 1500 bytes long. Now the minimum length, why do we need to establish a minimum length? Because it is required for the correct operation of CSMACD. Now, CSMACD is the protocol which is used to detect collisions. Uh, Forgive that S, it should have been an A. Now CSMACD is a collision detection protocol which actually works if a collision in the shared data transmission channel is occurred. As I told you in the bus topology, if two computers are trying to send data at the same time, a collision might occur. CSMA CD will handle that. We would look into its detail in its turn. The maximum length is used to reduce the size of the buffer, the area which is going to be used to uh, temporarily hold the frames while they are being transmission, and it prevents one station from monopolizing the shared medium, because each frame is being transmitted in its turn. So if you are a node and you are trying to send your data and you are sending your frame, so after your frame is sent, I will also get a chance to send my frame of data. So it would help the protocol to keep the medium shared between all the computers. Otherwise, it might have been a case that one computer is hogging all the bandwidths and monopolizing the medium which you are using to transfer data. Then you have Ethernet protocol CSMACD, which stands for Carrier Sense Multiple Access with Collision Detection. As we know that how we assess that the data is being transmitted from the shared medium or it is not being transmitted from the shared medium is by assessing the voltage of the wire which is being used. Now, excuse me. Now what happens here is that if two computers check the shared medium and they both find that the bus, the wire, the shared medium is actually empty, the voltage is low, both of them would try to send their data at once. If this is the case, a collision will happen and none of them would be able to send their data along the data bus. Now, what would happen is the CSMA protocol would dictate that both of them would step back